Okay.
So what do you think about the importance of civics education in divided government?
I think it's critical to the continuation of our democracy. I think it is so important that students and citizens know about the three branches of government and the functions of each.
What can lawyers and judges throughout the state do to send that message of the importance of civics education in their respective communities?
Well, I think they can take every opportunity they're given to give speeches to school children and to civic groups, and to specifically talk about the importance of civics education. And then if they're so inclined, even to run for the school board and to take that message to the formal structure. I think that it's very important.
What do you think makes lawyers and judges uniquely qualified to communicate that message?
Well, I think obviously lawyers are very intimately involved with the system. That's really how lawyers ply their trade or apply their trade. They're using the courts generally, although some are not involved in litigation services, but they have to access the courthouse to do their business. And so they're keenly aware whether they're doing guardianship law or whether they're handling juvenile cases, adoptions, or major litigation. They know the value of a strong court system.
Recently, the legislature approved an increase in funding of our courts in Illinois, not as much as the court would have liked, but better than last year.
Yes.
There's still more we can do, though, isn't there?
Well, there certainly is, because it is important that we have access to justice for the citizens of the people of the state of Illinois, and that the courts are adequately funded so that the work can be done. We are, of course, a third branch of government, and we are far less than 1% of the state's budget.
So there's plenty of room for improvement, isn't there?
There is room for improvement, and we would certainly like to see full funding for our probation services at a minimum.
Speaking of improvement, it's an exciting time for the Illinois Supreme Court. You're about to go through a renovation project. Can you talk about the timetable for that renovation?
Well, the building was just formally closed down this week, as a matter of fact. And our clerk's office and the library and the research department have all been moved to the Herndon building, which is on East Capitol. But the timetable is that the renovation's to take a year, and in that year's time, the 5 terms of the Supreme Court will be heard in the Blandick building here in Chicago. But we're anxious for the renovation to be completed and to get back to Springfield.
What reaction are you getting from the practitioners that most often appear before you at the Supreme Court?
I think they're grieving a bit about the closing of the building, even for a short time. Many of the lawyers talk about what it really means to be able to argue a case in the Supreme Court. And since I've been on the court, a number of times lawyers have mentioned during oral argument about how they're thrilled to be in the Supreme Court and to have the opportunity to argue a case in the Supreme Court, and they're very gracious in their comments. And it is a beautiful court building, and we think it's very important that it be preserved for future generations.
As ISBA president, one of the things that I have greatly appreciated is the relationship between the court on the one hand and the practicing bar on the other. We have had a very close relationship and worked together on projects that have been of benefit to the administration of justice, and I just want to say thank you for that opportunity.
Well, and I'd like to say thank you to you for your initiatives and taking on court funding. This is one of your seminal projects for the year. It was very beneficial and I'm sure very helpful in the end result.
That's a good finish. Okay, so we can do some more if you want.
That was great. I like the smile.
Okay.
Anything else, let's see, that you want to do? We can... how about if I ask you a question about, and by the way, when we run this, I don't want to do this little chatter in the middle with Newt. Yeah. We left it in, so let's splice it together. Right. Well, I thought it might be interesting to ask you about, because you've had, you've been an associate, a circuit, an appellate, and a Supreme Court justice. Somebody who aspires to becoming a judge, your advice?
Well, oh yes,
Okay,
I think
let's
all right. Okay.
Ready? Okay. Justice Garman, as I mentioned in introducing this segment, you're somewhat unique in that you have served at each level in the judiciary. You were an associate judge, and then you became a circuit, and then an appellate court judge, and then now a justice of the Supreme Court. What advice would you give to a lawyer that aspires to follow in your footsteps, at least in becoming a judge?
Well, I think that the first thing to do is to get as much experience as you can in various areas of the law, because that's very beneficial to you when you become a judge, to have had a wide range of experience. Plus, it gives the younger lawyer an opportunity to see what they really like to do. But it is quite a challenge to go on the bench and be hearing all kinds of cases, as we do in downstate Illinois. We're not specialists. We have to hear everything from juvenile to divorce to major litigation, felonies and the like. So having been exposed to all of those various areas, I think gives you some familiarity and some comfort level in addressing the issues and knowing what issues are critically important in those cases.
I know you're familiar with work we've done this year at the ISBA on the issue of law student debt and the impact on the delivery of legal service. And in particular, our concern that if we don't change the status quo, it's going to be harder and harder to get lawyers practicing throughout the state. Do you share a concern, that same concern, when it comes to judges as well?
Oh, I certainly do. I think that that could have a very negative impact on the quality of the judiciary. As a downstate lawyer and downstate judge, I'm particularly concerned about the loss of lawyers in our area. And the pool of lawyers are the ones that the judges are going to come from in years to come. And so if we don't have an adequate supply of capable and competent lawyers, we're not going to have capable members of the bench. And that doesn't bode well for the future.
Excellent. I just thought of that on the fly, because we had talked about that,
yes.
And I hadn't really thought of the impact on the judiciary, and that's true too.
Yeah, I've thought
it is
about
so
that
true.
And I look at that, in our area, because in my home county, there are far more lawyers retiring than there are young lawyers coming to town. And so, you do the math, figure out where that's going to take you. And
I'll tell you all, I was impacted. I had come over, this is during the campaign season 4 years ago, to the Vermilion County Bar Association, and interestingly, it was a doctor that was speaking that day, because it's the same problem with physicians, mm-hmm. And he was addressing the bar, and he mentioned that it was becoming a much greater problem in Vermilion County to have doctors that were willing to stay. Oh, yes. And so it really became, there was a very close connection to lawyers as well. Yes. So.
And since lawyers in smaller areas don't make the income that lawyers in metropolitan areas do, that also reflects the problem with law school debt. They have less ability to pay off significant debt. So it is a lose-lose situation.